the 14th of February 2019. The Burj Al Arab's royal suite glowed with soft golden light as a 28-year-old domestic worker from Manila stood beside her 6-7-year-old employer, exchanging vows that would make her an instant heiress to an $800 million fortune. She wore a simple cream dress bought from a Dira shopping mall. He wore traditional white, his hands trembling with excitement. No family, no friends. Just 2 hotel staff as witnesses to a union that would shock Dubai's elite circles. Less than 9 hours later, at 6:15 a.m., her voice cracked through the hotel phone line. "Please, send help. My husband won't wake up." Was she a grieving bride whose fairy tale ended in tragedy, or a calculated killer who'd just pulled off the perfect crime? You are about to find out. Welcome to True Crime Journal HQ. Thanks to all our viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay with us for daily update on the most shocking true crime stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before we start, if you want to learn how to protect yourself from potential danger, then download your free ebook titled Safety for Women Over 40, Everyday Habits to Outsmart Criminals, by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Rosanna Delgado was born in 1,991 inches, Tondo, Manila's most densely packed district, where families of 8 squeeze into single rooms and the smell of the Pasig River mingles with street food smoke. Her father vanished when she was 7, leaving her mother, Elena, to scrub clothes by hand for wealthy families in Makati. Rosanna was bright, top of her class at the local public school. At 18, she enrolled in nursing at a community college, fueled by dreams of working abroad and sending money home. But tuition fees doubled in her second year. Elena's arthritic hands could barely wring out laundry anymore. Rosanna made the choice thousands of Filipino youth face: drop out and find work, or watch her family starve. By 2015, she was serving tables at a Manila restaurant, earning 8,000 pesos monthly, barely $140. The walls were closing in. In March 2016, a recruitment agency posted an ad. Domestic workers needed. Dubai, 1,500 AED monthly plus accommodation. Rosanna borrowed 50,000 pesos from a loan shark for agency fees and airfare. Her mother cried at the airport. "Come back successful, Anak." Dubai hit her like a fever dream. Glass towers scratching clouds, cars worth more than her entire neighborhood. But reality settled in quickly at her first placement, a villa in Al Barsha with a family of 6. The contract promised 8-hour days and Fridays off. The reality? 16-hour shifts, no rest days, and her passport locked in the employer's safe, a common trap for migrant workers across the Emirates. She endured for 11 months. When the agency finally arranged a transfer in February 2017, Rosanna had lost 12 kilos and gained a hardened resolve. Her new placement, the Al Rashidi residence in Emirates Hills, Dubai's most exclusive gated community. Her employer, Sultan Al Rashidi, a 65-year-old real estate developer. Her primary duty, caring for his 8-9-year-old mother, Fatima, who was bedridden after a stroke. It seemed like a fresh start. Voila, she had no idea what was coming. The Al Rashidi mansion sprawled across 12,000 square feet. Marble everywhere, a temperature-controlled car garage, staff quarters nicer than any home Rosanna had known. Fatima occupied the ground floor master suite, and Rosanna slept in the adjacent maid's room. The routine was manageable. Medication schedules, physical therapy exercises, preparing traditional Emirati meals that Fatima barely touched. Sultan visited his mother twice daily, always polite to Rosanna. "Shukran," he'd say. "Thank you." Small words, but they mattered. He noticed things. When Rosanna caught a cold, he sent the driver to buy her medicine. When she mentioned missing Filipino food, he had the cook prepare adobo. These gestures stood out sharply against her previous employer's cruelty. For 2 years, life settled into comfortable predictability. Then, in December 2018, Fatima passed away peacefully in her sleep. Everything changed after that. Have you ever left everything behind for a chance at a better life? What would you sacrifice? Fatima al-Rashidi died on December 19, 2018, at 4:32 a.m. Rosanna found her during the routine morning check, already cold to the touch. She'd slipped away without struggle, exactly as she'd wished. Sultan's grief caught everyone off guard. This man who'd built an empire on ruthless business deals crumbled. He wandered the mansion at odd hours, sat in his mother's empty room for entire afternoons, barely ate. His 4 children attended the funeral but left within days, returning to their own lives in London and New York. Rosanna stayed. She prepared his meals, made sure he took his blood pressure medication, listened when he needed to talk about his mother's stories from old Dubai. The other household staff, the cook, the driver, the gardener watched this shift with knowing glances. Priya, the Indian housekeeper, whispered to Rosanna one evening, "Be careful. This kind of attention always has a price." By early January, Sultan began inviting Rosanna to sit with him in the evening sitting room after the other staff had left. They'd talk for hours. He spoke about his 2 failed marriages, the first arranged and loveless, the second to a European woman half his age who divorced him within 3 years. "My children only call when they need money," he told her one night, his voice heavy. "Nasser wants funding for another failed business. Amira just bought her 4th apartment in London. They didn't even stay a full week after their grandmother died." Rosanna listened. Sometimes she shared stories about Tondo, about her mother's sacrifices, about the nursing degree she'd had to abandon. Were these genuine moments of connection, or was she reading the room, understanding what a lonely billionaire needed to hear? The Filipino community in Dubai is tight-knit. Word travels fast. Other domestic workers started asking questions at Sunday church gatherings in Dara. "Is it true you're eating dinner with him?" one asked. "Girl, be smart about this," another warned. "Men like that don't marry women like us, they use us." But what if this was different? January 28th. Sultan arranged a private dinner on the mansion's rooftop terrace, Lebanese food from his favorite restaurant in Jumeirah. As Rosanna poured his Arabic coffee, he caught her hand. "Marry me." She froze. "Sir, I—" "Sultan. Call me Sultan." His eyes were intense, almost desperate. "You've shown me more kindness than my own blood. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of people who only see my money. You see me." He wanted an answer within 24 hours. "Think carefully," he said. "This will change everything. If you were in Rosanna's position, would you say yes? What would drive your decision, love, opportunity, or desperation?" A 28-year-old woman, earning 1,500 dirhams a month, being offered a life most can't even comprehend. Wallah, what would you do? February 8, 2019. Sultan walked into the office of Khalid Mansour, his attorney of 20 years, carrying a handwritten note. "I need to revise my will." Khalid reviewed the changes, and his face tightened. The original document split Sultan's estimated $800 million estate equally among his 4 children. This new version allocated 60% to Rosanna Delgado, a domestic worker Khalid had never even heard of, with the remaining 40% divided among the children. The changes would take effect immediately after marriage. "Sultan, I have to advise against this," Khalid said, choosing his words carefully. "You've known this woman for how long? 2 years? And she's been your employee. This opens you up to—" "To what? Someone actually caring whether I live or die?" Sultan's voice was sharp. "My children circle like vultures. Nasser has drained 3 businesses into the ground with my money. Amira hasn't visited in 18 months. When was the last time any of them asked how I'm doing, not how much I'm worth?" Khalid documented his concerns in writing, as lawyers do. Sultan signed anyway. "Rosanna sees me as a person. They never cared. She does." The document was prepared, awaiting only the marriage certificate to become valid. Nasser al-Rashidi received a courtesy call from Khalid's office on February 10th. Professional ethics required notification of major estate changes. Within 2 hours, he'd booked a flight from London, February 11th, 7 p.m. An emergency family meeting at Zuma restaurant in downtown Dubai's Gate Village. All 4 children present for the first time in over a year. Nasser, 41, the failed entrepreneur. Amira, 38, the socialite. Omar, 35, the perpetual student. Salma, 33, the only one with an actual career as a surgeon in New York. They confronted Sultan the next morning at the mansion. The shouting carried through closed doors. "She's using you." Amira's voice was shrill. "You're being manipulated by a maid." Sultan's response was ice cold. "This is my life, not yours. I'm marrying Rosanna on Valentine's Day. You're not invited." Nasser played his final card. "We'll contest this. Any court will see she coerced you." "Try it." Sultan stood. "Now get out of my house." They left threatening legal action. But they'd underestimated how quickly their father would move. The wedding was 3 days away. Once married, Rosanna would have legal standing as his wife. The clock was running out. Priya Sharma had worked at the Al-Rashidi residence for 8 years. She'd seen 2 wives come and go, watched the children grow distant, kept the household running smoothly in the background. She noticed things others missed. Late January, while cleaning Rosanna's room, She'd seen the laptop open to a medical website, digoxin overdose symptoms and timeline. Rosanna quickly closed it, explaining she was just learning about Sir's medications to help him better. February 4th and 7th, Rosanna visited the pharmacy at Dubai Mall with Sultan's prescription card, unusual because Sultan always handled his own medications, a point of pride about his independence. The pharmacist later confirmed she'd collected his digoxin refills both times. On February 9th, Rosanna asked Priya direct questions over tea. How serious is Sir's heart condition? Has he ever forgotten to take his medicine? What happens if someone takes too much? Priya's instincts screamed. But what could she do? Something felt wrong, but who would believe a maid? She later testified. We're invisible in this city. You speak up, you lose your job, your visa, everything. So I stayed quiet. But here's what no one knew at the time. Have you ever ignored your instincts about someone? Looking back, were you right? Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. If you made it to this point, drop a comment with, I'm still here. Let's see who is still watching. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. Sultan chose Valentine's Day deliberately. A day about love, he told the hotel coordinator. Perfect for a new beginning. The ceremony took place at 6 p.m. in a private function room at the Burj Al Arab, Dubai's most recognizable hotel, shaped like a sail against the Arabian Gulf. No family, no friends. Just 2 hotel staff members pulled from their shifts to serve as legal witnesses, looking uncomfortable in their pressed uniforms. Rosanna wore a cream dress from a Deira boutique, cost 450 dirhams. Her hands shook as she signed the marriage certificate. Nerves? Or guilt already setting in? Sultan was different that evening, energized in a way the hotel staff found unusual. He laughed loudly, tipped excessively, kept touching Rosanna's shoulder as if to confirm she was real. The witness who later gave testimony to police described him as almost manic, like a man half his age. His blood pressure medication sat forgotten in his jacket pocket. They checked into the royal suite on the 28th floor at 9:47 p.m. Security cameras captured everything. Sultan walked with purpose, his arm around Rosanna's waist. She carried a small bouquet of white roses, her face unreadable. The suite was extravagant even by Dubai standards. 780 square meters, gold leaf fixtures, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Gulf. The bedroom alone was larger than most apartments in Deira, where Filipino workers shared spaces. Dinner arrived at 9:58 p.m. Grilled hammer with saffron rice, Arabic meze including hummus and mutabal, fresh Arabic bread, and sparkling white grape juice. Sultan didn't drink alcohol. The waiter who delivered it remembered Rosanna barely made eye contact. She seemed distracted, he testified later. 10:23 p.m. Room service returned to clear the plates. Sultan answered the door, thanked them, tipped 500 dirhams. We're not to be disturbed, he said cheerfully. 10:45 p.m. The Do Not Disturb sign appeared on the door handle. Security footage shows no one approaching or leaving the suite after this point. The hotel fell quiet. Night shift staff made their rounds. Guests slept. Dubai's skyline glittered below. For the next 7 hours and 30 minutes, the world had no idea what was happening behind that door. But when morning came, everything changed. 6:15 a.m. The phone call that would transform a fairy tale into a nightmare. The reception desk at Burj Al Arab received the call at exactly 6:15 a.m. The voice was so quiet, the operator had to press the headset against her ear. This is Royal Suite 2807, please. I need help. Ma'am, what's the emergency? A long pause. Breathing. Then, my husband, he won't wake up. Protocol activated immediately. Security Supervisor Mahmoud Bashir assembled a team. 4 minutes. That's how long it took them to reach the 28th floor. Master keycard ready. They knocked first, professional courtesy. No answer. Knocked again, louder. Hotel security, we're entering. The electronic lock clicked. The door swung open. What they found would be analyzed in courtrooms for months. But in that moment, standing in the doorway, Mahmoud knew 2 things instantly. A man was dead, and his bride of less than 12 hours showed no emotion whatsoever. Sultan al-Rashidi lay on his back on the bedroom's marble floor, positioned between the bed and the bathroom entrance. He was still wearing his white wedding thobe, now wrinkled. His feet were bare, one arm stretched outward, the other resting across his chest. His eyes were open, staring at the ornate ceiling. No visible injuries, no blood. Rosanna sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap, staring at the wall. She didn't look at the security team, didn't look at Sultan. When Mahmoud asked if she was okay, she nodded once but said nothing. The room was remarkably organized. No overturned furniture, no signs of struggle or panic. The bathroom door stood open. Investigators would later note, Sultan's toothbrush was dry, unused. On the nightstand beside the bed sat an empty water glass with slight residue at the bottom. Next to it, Sultan's heart medication bottle, digoxin, 0.25 milligrams tablets. The prescription label indicated it should have been nearly full. He'd just refilled it on February 7th. The bottle contained 7 pills. Basic math suggested roughly 20 were missing. Paramedics arrived at 6:27 a.m. By 6:31 a.m., Sultan was officially pronounced dead, no pulse. Body temperature suggested he'd been deceased for approximately 4 to 6 hours sometime between midnight and 2 a.m. Dubai Police Criminal Investigation Department arrived by 7 a.m. The initial assessment seemed straightforward. 6-7-year-old male, documented heart condition, hypertension, the excitement and physical exertion of a wedding night. Senior Inspector Rashid Al-Hamadi classified it as probable cardiac arrest pending autopsy confirmation. Rosanna gave her statement in a flat, mechanical voice. We had dinner. We talked. We went to sleep around 11. I woke up at 6 to use the bathroom and found him on the floor like this. Her calmness disturbed the investigators. Inspector Al-Hamadi later wrote in his report, subject showed no visible signs of distress, shock, or grief. Demeanor inconsistent with discovering deceased spouse. Does grief look the same for everyone? Or was her calmness a red flag? Nasser al-Rashidi wasn't accepting the cardiac arrest conclusion. Within 48 hours of his father's death, he'd retained Ahmed al-Sharif, one of Dubai's most aggressive criminal defense attorneys, and a team of private investigators from a British firm specializing in suspicious deaths. My father was healthy enough to run his business empire, Nasser told reporters outside the police station. He dies hours after marrying a woman who stood to inherit hundreds of millions? This wasn't natural. Al-Sharif applied pressure through every channel available. He demanded a comprehensive toxicology screening, not standard procedure in cases initially classified as cardiac arrest. He leaked the story to Gulf News, Khaleej Times, and international outlets. The headlines wrote themselves, Billionaire dies hours after marrying maid. Filipino domestic worker inherits fortune, then husband found dead. Wedding night death mystery rocks Dubai. Dubai's expat community fractured along predictable lines. Filipino workers rallied around Rosanna, seeing her as a target of a vengeful family protecting their inheritance. Emirati social media skewed toward suspicion. These people come here for opportunities and this is how they repay us, one viral tweet read. Others defended her. Gold digger or grieving widow, let the evidence decide. 3 weeks later, the toxicology report landed on Inspector Al-Hamadi's desk. He read it twice, then called the prosecutor's office. Digoxin level in Sultan's blood, 7.2 nanograms per milliliter. Therapeutic range, 0.8 to 2 ng/ml. Sultan had approximately 3 times the lethal concentration in his system at death. This wasn't a mild overdose. This was poisoning. The investigation accelerated. Pharmacy records from Dubai Mall showed Rosanna had indeed collected Sultan's prescriptions on February 4th and 7th, refills he shouldn't have needed for another month. The pharmacist testified. She seemed nervous, kept asking if the dosage was correct. Priya's testimony about the medical website searches was documented. Digital forensics seized Rosanna's phone, unlocking a damning search history. January 29th. Digoxin overdose symptoms. February 1st. Heart attack versus poisoning, how to tell difference. February 3rd. Inheritance laws. Dubai foreign spouse. February 9th. How long does digoxin stay in body? The timeline of Rosanna's statement began falling apart. She claimed they went to sleep around 11 p.m., but the Do Not Disturb sign appeared at 10:45 p.m. 15 minutes earlier. Room service noted. Sultan answered the door at 10:23 p.m. in good spirits. What happened in the following hours? The medical examiner estimated time of death between midnight and 2 a.m. Digoxin overdose symptoms include nausea, confusion, visual disturbances, cardiac arrhythmia, then death. Sultan would have been conscious and suffering for hours. Where was Rosanna during this? Police found Rosanna at a budget hotel in Dira, the Al Fahidi district where most Filipino workers lived. Room 304, 120 dirhams per night. She'd moved there after the Al-Rashidi children barred her from the Emirates Hills mansion. March 10th. 7 a.m. Inspector Al-Hamadi arrived with 4 officers and an arrest warrant. Rosanna was awake, sitting on the bed, already dressed. "I knew you were coming," she said quietly. "At the station, formal charges. Premeditated murder in the first degree. Fraud. Conspiracy to commit inheritance theft." "I loved him," Rosanna told the prosecutor during initial questioning, tears finally appearing. "This is not what it looks like. Sultan was confused about his medications. He took them himself. I tried to help him, I swear." The prosecution's theory was methodical. Rosanna had researched, planned, and executed a poisoning designed to mimic natural cardiac arrest. She'd used Sultan's own medication, clever, untraceable without specific toxicology. She'd gained his trust, isolated him from his family, secured the will change, then eliminated him before he could reconsider. The defense countered. An elderly, recently widowed man, emotionally unstable, could easily have accidentally overdosed himself. No direct evidence placed the pills in Rosanna's hands. But wait, there's something the prosecution didn't want you to know. In Dubai's justice system, do you think a domestic worker gets a fair trial against a powerful family? Share your thoughts. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. If you made it to this point, drop a comment with, "I'm still here." Let's see who is still watching. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. The trial began on June 3, 2019, at the Dubai Courts Complex in Hurair. Outside, it was chaos. News vans from Al Arabiya, BBC, CNN, and Filipino broadcasting networks lined the streets. Reporters jostled for position, shouting questions in English, Arabic, and Tagalog. The Filipino community organized. Nearly 200 domestic workers took their Friday off to attend, holding signs. "Justice for Rosanna, and innocent until proven guilty." They wore matching yellow shirts, the color of hope in Filipino culture. Some wept openly. Others prayed the rosary. Emirati social media remained split. Twitter hashtags trended in both directions. Number Justice for Sultan versus Number Free Rosanna. "She's a victim of a greedy family," one account posted. "She's a cold-blooded killer," countered another. Inside courtroom 4, the prosecution laid out their case with clinical precision. Lead prosecutor Mariam Al-Ketbi presented the digital evidence first, those devastating search queries. Then the pharmacy records. The toxicology report projected on screens for the 3-judge panel to study. The defense, led by Filipino-Emirati lawyer Carlos Reyes, had one strategy: reasonable doubt. "The prosecution has circumstantial evidence," he argued. "But circumstantial is not conclusive. Where is the direct proof she administered these pills?" The judges listened impassively, taking notes. Priya Sharma took the stand on day 3, hands trembling. She was always asking about his medications. Priya testified. How much he took, when he took them, what would happen if he missed a dose. "At first I thought she was just being thorough. Now I wonder." The hotel waiter who cleared their dinner testified. "She seemed nervous, yes, but not distraught. Not like someone whose husband just died. More like, I don't know, someone waiting for something to happen." The pharmacist from Dubai Mall was definitive. In 8 years of filling Mr. Al-Rashidi's prescriptions, he always came himself. Then suddenly his maid appears twice in 1 week. That raised questions for me. The defense brought Dr. Hassan Al-Mansouri, a geriatric specialist. Elderly patients with multiple medications frequently self-overdose accidentally. Memory lapses. Confusion about whether they've already taken their pills, it's tragically common. Mr. Al-Rashidi was 67, under emotional stress from recent marriage. Accidental overdose is entirely plausible. Character witnesses painted Rosanna as gentle, religious, someone who sent every dirham home to her mother. "She's not capable of this," testified Maria Santos, a fellow Filipino worker. "She cried watching sad movies. You think she could watch someone die?" Prosecutor Al-Ketbi stood before the judges for her final argument. "This was not love. This was calculation. Look at the timeline. She researches his medication. She collects extra prescriptions. She secures a will change. She marries him. He dies within hours. She inherits $480 million. Motive? Clear. Means, she had complete access to his medications. Opportunity? They were alone for 7 hours. No witnesses. Rosanna Delgado saw a lonely, wealthy old man and executed the perfect crime. Almost. The evidence doesn't lie. Sultan al-Rashidi trusted the wrong person. That trust killed him. After 11 weeks of testimony and 3 days of deliberation, The three-judge panel returned on August 15 at 2 p.m. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Ibrahim Al-Zabi read the verdict. Guilty of murder in the second degree. Rosanna's face remained blank. In the gallery, Filipino workers sobbed. The Al-Rashidi children embraced, tears of relief streaming down their faces. The court's reasoning: while no direct evidence showed Rosanna physically administering the pills, the circumstantial evidence formed an overwhelming pattern. The research, the prescriptions, the will timing, the lack of distress. The accumulation of facts points to deliberate action, Judge Al-Zabi stated. Sentence: 25 years in Dubai Central Jail, eligible for parole after 15. Under UAE law, individuals convicted of murdering someone cannot benefit from that person's death. The revised will was automatically voided. The Al-Rashidi children regained their full inheritance. Rosanna would leave prison with nothing except her deportation papers. From her cell in Al-Awir prison, Rosanna continues maintaining her innocence. "I didn't kill him. Sultan took those pills himself. I loved him." She's filed 2 appeals, both denied. The evidence, judges ruled, was sufficient. The Filipino consulate provided legal observers, but had limited power to intervene in criminal proceedings. "We ensured she had representation," Consul Maria Clemente stated. "Beyond that, UAE law must take its course." The case became legendary, and Dubai's expat community whispered about in grocery stores in Karama, discussed at church gatherings in Satwa. It reinforced every stereotype and fear about power imbalances, about desperate people doing desperate things, about the invisible line between opportunity and crime. Labor rights organizations used the case in training materials. Document everything, maintain boundaries, protect yourself. But was that the lesson? Or was the real lesson something darker about trust, loneliness, and what people become when they see a way out? Years later, questions linger. Did Sultan genuinely love Rosanna, or was his judgment compromised by grief and declining mental clarity? Was Rosanna's care authentic from the beginning, or had she identified a target the moment she walked into that mansion? Could this truly have been a tragic accident? A confused elderly man taking too many pills on the most overwhelming night of his life? What actually happened during those 7 hours between 10:45 p.m. and 6:15 a.m.? Only 2 people know the complete truth. One is dead. The other sits in a prison cell, insisting the world got it wrong. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. If you made it to this point, drop a comment with, "I'm still here." Let's see who is still watching. If you're enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share it with your loved ones to protect them from the same tragedy happening to them in the future. This case exposed uncomfortable truths about Dubai's household employment system. Over 750,000 domestic workers live in the UAE, mostly from the Philippines, India, Bangladesh, and Ethiopia. They care for children, elderly parents, entire households. They're essential to the Emirates' functioning, yet often invisible until something goes catastrophically wrong. The power imbalance is stark. Employers control visas, sometimes passports, living conditions, and wages. Workers are isolated, far from family support systems, legally vulnerable. When boundaries blur between employer and employee, the consequences can be devastating. Rosanna's story, whether she's guilty or innocent, highlights what happens when desperation collides with extreme wealth. A woman earning 1,500 dirhams monthly suddenly faced the possibility of inheriting 800 million. That's not just an opportunity. That's a complete transformation of reality. What does that do to judgment? To morality? To decision-making? The line between taking an opportunity and exploiting vulnerability isn't always clear. This case forces us to ask, who was really vulnerable here? Regardless of where the truth actually lies, 2 lives were permanently destroyed. Sultan al-Rashidi is dead, possibly murdered by someone he trusted, possibly the victim of his own confusion and loneliness. Rosanna Delgado will spend the best years of her life in prison, either justly punished for calculated murder or wrongly convicted because the evidence looked damning. A family was fractured by either grief or greed, perhaps both. The lesson transcends guilt or innocence. Loneliness makes people vulnerable. Desperation makes people dangerous. And trust, once misplaced, can cost everything. What do you think really happened? Was Rosanna a victim of circumstances she couldn't control, or did she manipulate a lonely man with surgical precision? Drop your location and thoughts in the comments below. If this story gripped you, subscribe for more true crime investigations from around the world. Remember, the truth often exists somewhere between what we're told and what we choose to believe. Before you go, if you want to learn how to protect yourself from potential danger, then don't forget to download your free ebook titled Safety for Women Over 40. Everyday Habits to Outsmart Criminals by clicking the link in the pinned comment.